I'm here today with Steve Sanders, a man who's achieved more than almost anybody in match fishing. Steve, how did it all start for you?
Basically, I started going fishing when I was about 5 or 6 years old. Steve Garden and I lived 300 yards apart, and in between our houses there was a pond. And I met Steve fishing at the pond, and we ended up going to the same schools, and we were always friends. And Steve carried on with his fishing. I stopped fishing for about 10 years and I was playing football regularly. And then Steve and we got a flat. I was working in Twickenham, and I had to catch a bus in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. And you could only catch a bus from Epsom, not from where I was living, which was about 6 miles away. So Steve and I got a flat, and he was fishing at the time regularly, and I started going along and watching, and I got back into match fishing. I was about 18 then, I suppose. And then, 1970, I fished my first match for Dorking. They asked me to fish in an ACDAC League match, and that was turning into the Angling Times Winter League the following year. The Winter League was starting, and I sort of picked in the first Winter League team, and I fished ever since then. I've been match fishing, and it's like I can't go fishing unless it's a match, basically. Now,
You just love the competition.
just love the competition and the people in the matches. You meet different people, and I just enjoy that sort of environment.
So, obviously, you and Steve Gardner, lifelong friends.
Yeah.
His sort of England career, when did that sort of start alongside everything else that was happening?
Well, Stevie, I think he was first picked when he was about 33, and he stayed in the team till he was close on. He might have been before 33 actually, because I know he fished 29 World Championships,
Right.
which is like unbelievable for someone to be in the team that long. And he was the best angler I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The best angler I've ever seen was Steve Gardner. And probably the best in the world for 10, 12 years. And then that sort of moves on to somebody younger. As you get to a certain age, I think people catch up with you.
Yeah.
And but Steve's still fishing. He's fishing matches all the time on the type of fishing that he enjoys now.
Yeah. And obviously, sort of later in life, you've come into the international scene as a manager and as an angler in certain events as well. Did you ever, at the time that Steve Gardner was sort of fighting for his place in the England team, did you ever want that as well, or?
To be fair, Tom, I had a job where I couldn't give the commitment to my fishing
Got you.
to be able to do that. And to be fair, I never felt I was good enough to do that, because there were some fantastic England teams in when I could have fished that you couldn't get in the team. The team was brilliant. Steve Gardner, Bob Nudd, Tommy Pickering, Dennis White, those type of anglers, you couldn't break into that team. They had so much knowledge, and to get the knowledge to fish in international matches, you have to travel and fish abroad. You don't get that knowledge without doing it, and nobody could catch up with that lot. They were so far in front of everybody.
Absolutely. You mentioned Daiwa Dorking back then, or Dorking as it was, and
Yeah.
before it became Daiwa Dorking,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
it? Obviously, you were pivotal in making them a team that some would argue, or probably most would argue, was the most successful British match fishing team of all time. How did it come as a progression from you from being an angler in the team to the captain?
Basically, when I had the job that I had, which was on the road, I couldn't give the commitment to be captain. I was captain for a couple of years, and then I stopped. And I talked Steve Champion at the time into being captain, and he did it for quite a few years. And then I got fed up with driving. I was driving 75,000 miles a year on this particular job. And I had the opportunity to go into business with Steve Gardner in Casey Angling. And I would have been about 40 then. And I thought, do you know what, I'm going to do it. I just cannot spend any more time stuck in traffic on a motorway.
Yeah.
And I went in the shop, and all of a sudden I had more time, and I started to fish more, because I couldn't always fish midweek before we had the shop. So I started to fish more, and I started to get into my fishing a bit more. And then the captain at the time dropped out at Dorking. And I said, Steve, do you want to do it again? And I thought, do you know what, I will.
Yeah.
And we were always logheads with Essex. They were the best team, without a doubt. They were the best team in our area at that time. And slowly but surely, I've signed anglers, got anglers in that made us a little bit better. And then we had a team for, I think it was probably about 10 or 12 years, that was unbeatable. Whatever we wanted to do, we could do. If you can motivate the people to go,
Yeah.
I knew we'd win. And we proved that. And we won 11 Super League finals, but we won 8 on the trot.
Yeah.
And that is an unbelievable record. And I sort of thought, well, if we could win 10, I'll pack up.
Yeah.
But Peter Drennan stopped sponsoring it, so I could never achieve that. So that's all
No,
we're out of the
good
winner.
about that,
We won at the same time. We won 11 Winter League finals, and they were our 2 competitions. We didn't really fish nationals. We sort of didn't want to do that because there was quite a lot of commitment for one match, whereas in league matches the best team usually wins. And Peter stopped sponsoring the Super League final, and I thought this team will fall apart if I don't do something. So we entered the national. And slowly but surely, it was on the basis of Scholey Canal, the first one, which was a local one for us, and we got promoted. The next year, it was in second division, was on the Chesterfield Canal, and we won that. To be fair, how I don't know, because me and 2 others went and practised for it. None of the others bothered, and we just went one day for practice on the Chesterfield Canal somewhere. I don't know where we fished. We found a few things, and we went back and said, look, if you fish like this and this and this will happen. And we won it by like 56 points, by over a section, I thought. And what really disappointed me that day, we didn't want to be in the second division because we weren't a second division team. The anglers at that match booed us afterwards when we collected our medals. And I thought, do you know what? That's not what fishing's about.
Not at all.
Fishing's not about that.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I was really disappointed at that. So then we were in the first division, and the next year was on the Trent, and we ended up 14th, and not so good. Did okay, but not so good. And then all of a sudden, our anglers sort of drilled into them. Look, if you want to go further, if you want to win the World Club Championships, you've got to win this. And we started to put a bit of effort into nationals, and then we won. The first one we won was unbelievable, and we won on the New Junction Canal.
I remember that well.
That was a record score. I think we dropped something like 40 points out of the whole match, and we beat Barnsley on their own doorstep, which is a brilliant achievement. They are a fantastic team. They were then, and to beat them on their home venue was like, we've done it. And then, of course, we went to World Clubs and we came 3rd, and I was so disappointed because the night before I would have bet my house we were going to win it.
Yeah.
But what happened, we were in Portugal, and the Portuguese, for some reason, ran like 1 million gallons of cold water through the river overnight, and they changed the venue completely. And
dirty tricks then, really.
Well, I don't know whether they thought it'd make it better, and it didn't. And so I thought, oh well, that's gone. And then we won the next year. We won the national game, and it changed to a fish off, and it was on the Bristol Wave, and we won again. And we didn't qualify in the fish off, and I was disappointed. Oh well. And I thought, oh, well, that's that gone now. And I was starting to lose interest a little bit because I thought, oh, the chance is gone to win that. And then it was on the Gloucester Canal. And we had a fantastic team for the Gloucester Canal. And I said, we've got a chance here of winning, and you could go to a World Club Championships again. And obviously we qualified. We won the national, won the World Clubs, and it was on the Ossolato Canal in Italy. And I sort of spoke to them, and I said, look, when we went last time, I think I made a mistake. I picked 7 anglers, and you fish. I picked 6 anglers, and you fish for places. If we go this time, I'm going to name 4 before we go, and there's 2 people fishing for 1 place. And what that did, we had a brilliant week's practice. We went for an extra week. It cost a lot of money, that match. It cost us probably in the region of £20,000 to win that World Club Championships. You don't win anything for winning the World Club Championships, but you are the best team in the world. And we won on the Ossolato Canal. We beat the Italian team, was second. We beat them by 3 points the first day and 4 points the second day, I think, which was a fantastic achievement. They got a brilliant team, the Tubertini team in Italy. And that was sort of, that really was the end for me. When we won that, they all said, oh, if you pack up, I'm going to pack up, I won't go. And I slowly sort of walked away from it. In the meantime, I'd become manager of the England team, the senior team, with Mark Downs. And that was taking more and more time, and I just felt, it's time for me to step away. And to be fair, for the last 3 years, I haven't really had anything to do with the team. They're still going. They're not quite as successful as we were, but I think they're trying to build another team for the future. And good luck to them. That's what fishing's about. It keeps people on the bank, and a little bit of rivalry keeps people going.
You mentioned there, obviously, the international setup and the move into managing the England senior team. Yeah. But I want to talk a little bit, if we can, about the many, many years you've put into junior angling and junior international angling. Yeah. Now, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but obviously my best mate's Matt Godfrey, and you are his hero. He looks up to you, I remember from the day that we met, he was always sort of saying about how much you'd taught him and all the other team on your trips abroad. How did that all start, Steve, and what do you get out of it?
Basically, my son had fished in the England under 18 team, and I was about 40, and Michael had won a gold medal and won a bronze medal, and I looked at his medals and I thought, I haven't got one of them. And Mark Downs phoned me out of the blue and he said, Steve, the NFA are looking to set up a pathway for junior anglers for international fishing. Would you like to come along and train to be one of the coaches? I said, he said, you'll be good at it. You're doing it all the time, in the shop and so forth. I said, okay, I'll come along. And I went along and we did this training course at the NFA headquarters at the time. I think it was in Ilkeston in Derby, somewhere around there. And we went through the course, and then Mark said to me, he said, there's a new age group starting up in the World Championships, under 16s. I said, oh really? And I didn't think anything more of it. And about 2 weeks later, I thought, I wouldn't mind being involved in that. And I phoned him, I said, Mark, if you need somebody to help you with the under 16s, I wouldn't mind doing that. And he said, oh, that'd be brilliant. He said, you can be manager of that team. Oh, really? And I sort of got into it like that. And that was in fact, we're at Larford today, and I had the first trials on the Spessy Lake at Larford for that, in 2002, I think it was.
Right.
And fishing big waggler, fire and ground bait. And the next year, the trial was at Makins. Matt came along for the first time. Didn't get in that year. He was about 12 years old, I would say, 12, 13 years old. He was about 4'6", and he just kept talking all the time. All the time kept talking. I thought, the kid's doing my head in. We went to the World Championships that year. We didn't win a medal. We didn't win the medal the first year. And when we were there, I was watching the kids fishing, and I thought, do you know what? I should have bought that young kid. And in my mind, I thought, that kid had something, and he made a mistake there. And the next year we had trials. Matt came along, and he got in the team. And we went to Serbia, and he was fantastic. First year, he was brilliant. We won the gold medal, the first medal I'd ever won. And I thought, whoa. He won the gold medal individually. And I thought, whoa, bloody hell, what a brilliant day. Two of us won a medal. And at the time, when we set that team up, our ambition, Mark and our ambition, was for those young anglers to one day come into the full England team. Well, Matt fished for another 2 years for me and won 2 more gold medals. 3 intermediate world champions on the trot. That's unbelievable. Then he moved up to the next age group, and he didn't win one in the next age group. He was second on the first year and so forth. And then 3 years ago, when I got involved, Matt was included in the World Championship squad. And I thought, my ambition is to win a full World Championship and for Matt Godfrey to win the individual. And this year it nearly happened. He was so unlucky not to win this year, Matt, in the World Championship. And afterwards I've been deciding whether to stop being an international manager, and I thought, I'm going to stop because, it nearly happened, but you can't hang on forever waiting for Matt to win one. And he will win one. I promise you, Matt Godfrey will win a World Championship. He's that good. He's in the same sort of group as Will Rays and Deship, Alan. They're in a little group who can all win.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you were quite modest earlier when you were sort of talking about your own angling ability, sort of saying how you felt you were maybe a bit behind the England team at the time. I mean, in my lifetime, Steve, you've won an awful lot and continue to push at the highest level. I just want to talk about when we first met. I think it was down at Whiteacres.
I'll never forget it, Tom.
What happened? Tell a story.
Tom, well, we fished on Twin Oaks, and I think I was 8 and you were on 6. And we started off on the feeder, and I caught 1 or 2 fish.
How was my casting, Steve?
It wasn't so good, but it wasn't bad, but it wasn't so good. You weren't that accurate, Tom, and it did go in a bit like a hand grenade. But as the day went on, I'm sure it was the noise. You drew all the fish out of my peg and you battered me. And I came away and I thought, oh well, that's fishing. That's what happens.
A lot of potluck
and
there.
it's the best thing. It's the best thing for a young angler to do is to beat a so-called named angler off the next peg, because it gives them the urge to want to go a bit further. And that's what fishing's about, trying to improve yourself.
What stood out to me as a young angler, though, Steve, was how open you were with information, especially at Porth Reservoir, because that was a nightmare for me, and your record on there was unbelievable.
Porth was and still is probably my favourite venue anywhere. I'll tell you the record. My record was, when I started counting, I had 39 section wins or match wins out of 43 visits. And then I stopped counting. And I had a few more after that. And that was like, it was just like, I knew the pin number at Porth. When you went there, I thought, oh, well, I'll win my section today. And 99% of the time it happened. Why, I don't know. I just knew how to catch these little skimmers and some roach sometimes. But what ruined my record was when they started to fish the method feeder. I started catching big bream. That almost ruined it for me.
Yeah.
But I still love to go there. I haven't been there for 3 or 4 years now, but I do love the place.
About sort of 4 or 5 years ago now, you took a decision to move away from carp fishing and focus exclusively on rivers and natural fishing.
Yeah.
Enjoying that?
I love it, Tom. It's how I started. It's the type of fishing I did when we started on the River Mole, we moved to the River Thames and we travelled around the country fishing different big rivers. There weren't any carp fishing. Carp fishing was invented by Steve Gardner and myself at Nutfield Priory. We were on the first ever carp matches and what have you. And I just got bored with carp fishing, Tom. There's nothing wrong with it, but for me, it became a bit crude and the weights were getting immense. And I wasn't enjoying catching 200 pound and 150 pound, and I just felt I'd go fishing and come back and think, oh, I won today. I didn't enjoy that, and I felt myself, my angling was going back because I wasn't spending time preparing because it was easy to go to the same venues and just take the same gear that you used last time, and I just stopped doing it. I just thought, that's it, I'm not going anymore. And I haven't really fished a carp match for 5 years.
No.
And I haven't missed it. I love fishing rivers. I've done really well on river festivals that I've entered, and that's what I plan to do. Go river fishing. And to be fair, in the summer I go on commercial. In the winter I go on commercials and I fish silverfish matches, and I love them because they're full of silvers.
It's a great kind of fishing, though, isn't it? Busy, active, loads of bites.
It's another aspect of fishing, isn't it? Yeah. You know, some people love carp fishing in the winter where they go and they sit behind their bomb rod and fish like a single grain of corn or a pellet, and they love it. Me, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm bored. I remember fishing a winter series carp fishing, and every match I caught a carp, at least one. I never saw a bite because I was always looking somewhere else. I just felt the rod go, and that to me isn't the type of fishing I enjoy.
I want to just talk a little bit now about the work side of it, really. KC angling. As a young angler, sort of growing up, there was only really one kind of commercial pole float I used to like to use or could get on with without them falling to bits, basically. And they were the KC range of floats. Just tell us a bit about how they came about.
Well, how it came about was Steve had met a Hungarian when he was away on international fishing. And the Hungarian chap, whose name is Silla, or Szilard, or we call him Silla, he said to Steve, "Oh, Steve, would you like me to make you some bloodworm floats?" Because at the time we were fishing a lot of bloodworm matches at Willow Park. And Steve said, "Oh yeah, send them." And he sent some through, and Steve gave me some, and looked at these floats. I mean, we had the shop at the time, and I looked at these floats, I thought, these floats are fantastic. The quality is brilliant. And I said to Steve, "Do you think you'd be able to make some carp floats?" Because carp fishing was becoming more and more popular. And he said, "Yeah, you can make anything you like." So I did some drawings, made a couple of samples, sent them to him. And he said to me, "What colour do you want the floats?" I said, "Well, honestly, I want them black." And the reason I want them black is because when the float's in the water, you can't see the body under the water 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And I used to hate that. Fishing with like coloured green body floats, I could see the body and it used to detract your eyes away from the tip and that sort of thing. And the range started with 3 floats, Carper 1, 2, 3. And slowly over the years, we introduced more and more floats. And it was really, really successful for us. And to be fair, it was the first sort of commercially made carp range that dominated fishing. The Carper chimp, I can't tell you how many Carper chimps were sold in that time, and they're still being copied now.
I must have bought a few thousand in the early days.
In fact, I made up, I'm hoping to go to the Silfish Festival at Whiteacres in a few weeks' time, about 4 weeks' time. And on those windy days on Trelawney, there's still no better float than chimp for fishing out there. So I made a few up the other day. I found a few that I've still got left and made a few up.
Brilliant. I'm going to get a bit more controversial now, Steve, because I do think, to be honest, there's a few problems in the sport, in particular when it comes to international angling. Obviously, we all saw what happened earlier this year with Drennan and the sponsorship with the England team. And it's not my place really to say who's at fault or what, but what do you think the future's going to hold for England, and how do you think we're going to get some funding to take the team forward?
Well, I honestly don't know. I feel that the England teams are underfunded. Even with the Drennan sponsorship, which was fantastic. Peter Drennan has done a fantastic thing for British match fishing or English match fishing for the last 25, 30 years that he sponsored the team. Unbelievable amount of money he's put into that. One day it had to stop. The reasons why, I know some, I probably never know the full reason. Now I think I can't see a private company putting that amount of money back into match fishing, international match fishing. Now to me, international fishing is the most important thing there is in fishing. And to be able to represent your country at any sport is an unbelievable honour. And I think we're at the stage now where some people in the future will be good enough to represent the country, but they won't be able to afford to do it. And I think that is a crying shame. And I think it's down to our governing body to somehow, I don't know how they do it, to raise the money for international teams. We've got so many anglers in this country. I think it's something like 750,000 rod licences sold. 25 pence off every rod licence is a massive amount of money. That's enough money for 3 years almost. 25 pence off each angler that buys a rod licence. But for some reason, the government, the organising body, they can't seem to come to an arrangement where that would happen. All the money goes to the Environment Agency. I don't know, but I just feel that something has to be done by the governing body.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Steve, about the lack of sponsorship for the teams. I always remember when I joined Match Fishing magazine, we had some sales figures, and you'll remember I think it was 2009, the year that England won the World Champs in Italy.
Yep.
Will Raisin was world champion.
Yep.
And David Hall sent out Dave Howell and John Arthur to cover it, and they had a 9-page special on the event.
Yeah.
On the front cover was a picture of the team with the medals. And that was the worst selling issue of Match Fishing magazine that there'd been for a couple of years before it. And the issues either side of it, which were a man holding a carp, to me and you, and to most people probably at, I'd say, the top level of match fishing, that's the wrong way of putting it, but who've got an advanced interest in match fishing, there'd be less interesting covers than the England team. What do we do to increase interest in international fishing? Because I think that goes hand in hand with the sponsorship thing.
It does. I think the problem we have, and in a way I blame Steve Gardner and myself, is commercial fisheries. Because I think some anglers, and to me it's not a problem if that's what they want to do, but they've lost sight of representing your country. And that to me is the biggest thing in angling. Being able to say, I fish for England. That is something really special. Yeah. And those people are never going to have the opportunity to even try to do that, because they're not learning the basic skills you need to fish in international fishing. Yeah.
That ties in quite nicely to the next thing I wanted to talk about, really. And it all goes hand in hand with the perceived value of an angler and the perceived value of certain areas of the sport, really. But sponsorship. I mean, you've been a sponsored angler with Preston Innovations now as long as I can remember.
Well, at least 15 years. And to be fair, Preston to me have been fantastic. I wouldn't say I was a lazy angler, but I'm not a modern angler where I'm on Facebook pushing the Preston case all the time. My original deal was made with Ricky Teal, and he sort of said to me, Steve, what do you want? I said, to be honest with you, Rick, I don't really want any money. I just want gear to go fishing with, and I just want to go fishing. I don't really want to do shows because I spend all my time in a shop talking to the public anyway. He said, Steve, all I want you to do is go fishing and use our gear. And that's all I've ever done. And I've been very, very lucky. There's some fantastic anglers that I know have never been sponsored. I don't know why. I was just lucky. It happened to me, and Preston have been fantastic to me.
I think you've been very modest. You weren't just lucky. You were one of the best achieving anglers in the country. You still are.
It's not. Yeah, but I just love going fishing, Tom, in matches. I've never thought of myself as, I'm really good at this. I just love going fishing in matches. And if somebody beats me off the next peg, I say, oh, well done, mate. And I think, how did he beat me? And I think about it, and next time I think, I owe him one. I'll try and get that back next time.
Yeah. Something that sort of strikes me about you, I've never heard you say a bad word about any style of fishing, about any angler, about anything really in that regard. Do you think, I know we've sort of said the problems that commercial fishing's caused in some respects to the international scene, but do you value all disciplines of fishing equally? Do you think feeder fishing's as skillful as float fishing, as skillful as F1 fishing, as skillful as roach fishing?
Definitely. I think every type of angling has its little points that enable some people to become better than others at it. I'm not particularly a fan of feeder fishing. But I can tell you now, I've probably won more money on a feeder than I have float fishing over the years. But I like float fishing. It's something that, it's a challenge to me, float fishing. Whereas feeder fishing, I get bored very quickly. Why, I don't know, but that's just me. Other people love feeder fishing. I'm here today at Larford. There's a feeder only competition on, and I've walked around and I've looked. And I thought, you know what, I could do this. And then I think about it. But if I could fish a pole, I'd catch this. So it swings and roundabouts really. It's horses for courses. What you like, you've got to enjoy going fishing. And if you enjoy feeder fishing, you'll go on a feeder fishing circuit. If you enjoy float fishing, you'll do what I do, go on rivers, try and fish the float as much as you can, and then fish for silverfish in the winter on commercials. That's my angling sort of outlook now. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do.
You'll be pleased to know I've only got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
I've grilled you earlier.
No, I haven't, not at all.
Okay, the first one. Obviously, you've stepped back from international fishing.
Yeah, I've stepped back in as much, Tom, as I've given up all the managerial side now. It's come to the stage where I've got a little bit of a medical problem that I'm going to probably have an operation for, and that's going to sort of set me back for maybe 6 months. And I'm not young, I feel young. I feel like I'm still 40.
Yeah.
I'm 67 now, and I sort of think I can't go on forever. And sooner or later, somebody else is going to have to step in. And I just felt it was time to do it, to be fair. Just for me, to enjoy my fishing, it's time for me to stop.
So what next then for Steve Sanders?
Well, what's next? What's next is I hope to go on the Drennan Sealfish Festival in 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time.
Yeah.
I want to win that. I've never won that. I want to go on the Sealfish Festival, the Whiteacres Sealfish Festival, 2 weeks after. I want to win that. I've been framed in it, but I've never won it. I just want to win, Tom.
Yeah.
But and I want to win for a sense of self-achievement, not for money. Money's never come into it in fishing for me. It's all about achievement. Yeah, I've won that. It's sort of something to tick off my list of things that I've won and not won.
Yeah, awesome. Right, I always save the best till last. The most contentious question, the most controversial question.
Yeah, go on then.
So, you've probably watched more top-class anglers fish than almost anybody over the years. I think it'd be unfair for me to ask you who the best angler you've ever watched is. So I'm going to ask you what the best angling performance, one day, one match where you've watched an angler and thought that is the best angling performance I've ever seen. What was it? Or who was it? And where?
Do you know, I couldn't tell you. I've seen so many over the years that have left me gobsmacked that I just couldn't tell you. Every day is different. I personally, in my mind, at this present time, Will Raisin is the best angler in the world, without a doubt, at any sort of style of fishing. He's unbelievable. Other people will have a different angler in their mind, but Will's age is at his peak now, and he will be for probably the next 10, 12 years. to me, he's the best. And I've seen him fish some absolutely fantastic matches. Fantastic matches. But I've also seen Alan Scotland fish some absolutely brilliant matches. And I've sort of stood back and thought, Christ, I could never be that good. Because those two are exceptional. There's another one, Des. Des has just won the 25,000 at the weekend on the Park Dean. Des is a phenomenal angler. But like those other two, Des has worked his socks off for the last 25 years to make himself that good. And I don't think people realise how much work you have to do to become as good as those anglers.
Absolutely. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and all the best at
Thanks,
Whiteacres.
Thanks, Tom.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that.